Are you still using watercolor paper like a 2017 Peasant? Well, it's 2018 now, and we use watercolor grounds. But like in seriousness, I use paper for almost everything I do, but I did get to try a watercolor, or several watercolor grounds, one of which was light dimensional ground, which is my favorite, so I wanted to tell you all about it and show you how I would prepare a masonite board to paint on, just to give you some different surface options. You know, it gives you different framing choices. Maybe you could paint on something really weird like I don't know, rocks or something, or I don't know, like wood boards. There's lots of different things you could paint on now that you could have a surface, like you could like paint it over 3D surfaces and all sorts of stuff. So I'm going to show you how I would approach that and let you know a little bit about just how it works. So this is what we're starting with. It's a 6x6 inch hardboard. I ordered this off of Amazon. Now, of course, you could get your hardboard cut at your local Home Depot or do it yourself if you have a table saw. But I like these surfaces to work on because they're inexpensive and I don't know, it's just nice. So first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna make sure it's nice and dust-free, kind of cleaned off. Wipe it off here. And then you are going to seal it. And what we're going to use to seal it with is the GAC 100. So this is an acrylic primer and extender. So you can use this to seal surfaces, but you can also use it to extend your acrylic paints. It'll make them more transparent too, if you like that sort of thing. So good thing to have around in your artist arsenal, even if you're a watercolorist, watercolorer, watercolorista. Whatever we're calling ourselves. All right, I like watercolorista. Okay, so I'm gonna bloop some out right there. And we are gonna do a single coat of this. Well, I mean, you can only paint one coat at a time. So yeah, that is what we're doing. All right, now that we've got our first layer down, we're gonna do the hardest part of the whole art process, and we're gonna wait for it to dry. Now we're gonna go in with our second layer. So the Golden website recommends doing 2 layers of GAC 100 to prevent surface-induced discoloration. So if you want to learn more about that kind of stuff, I'll link some articles below in case you're a real nerd and want to read about it in more technical terms. So our GAC 100 is dried. We did 2 coats of them and now it's ready to apply the light dimensional ground. Open this can. Got a palette knife. And it's real light. It's kind of like frosting, which just makes me want cake. And I'm just gonna start covering the surface, spreading it out. So kind of my first strategy is to just get it covered and making sure, see how it's real thin here at the edge? Making sure I've got enough there at the edge. I'm gonna worry about smoothing it here in a bit. All right, so now it comes to the point where it's like, all right, what kind of texture do we want? So you can do a lot of crazy textural stuff. You could, I don't know, do crazy stuff like that. I personally wouldn't, I mean, it just doesn't suit the kind of work that I make. So I want mine to be kind of smooth. So the deal is you've got to kind of, like, I would suggest practicing with this. You're just kind of, I mean, this really is like frosting a cake. So there are small ridges in what I'm doing right now, but it's just not a big deal to me, at least. You know, I mean, part of this is we're not using paper, you know, so like, I don't know, that's kind of what makes it unique. It makes it a little different. You can just lightly, so you've got it all covered, so now I'm just kind of lightly kind of going over top. Now you could just end up kind of scraping at this for forever, so there does come a certain point where you just have to be like, okay, that's as smooth as I can get it right now. I would imagine if you had a big old giant kind of spatula thing, like actually for cake frosting, you could probably get this pretty smooth. But I don't dislike this look, so I am gonna kind of scrape away at the edges because that does look sloppy. Alright, and I don't know how much you can see in the video. Yeah, you can see it there. We do have some little ridges, but I kind of think it's nice. So you do have options. You don't just have to do a white ground. So you can see right here, it's all dark in there. So what I did is I took the light dimensional ground and then I added some fluid acrylic paint and carbon black, and I just put some in there. This is like a half-used jar. Swirled it all around, got it nice and mixed up. So now it kind of looks like licorice frosting. Or like if we want to be cool and get on that charcoal kind of trend thing, maybe charcoal frosting. Anyways, it still spreads on the same. So the one thing I would caution you about when you are mixing your colors together, or mixing acrylics in with the light dimensional ground, is acrylics are not absorbent. And the whole point of light dimensional ground is that it is absorbent. So if you get to where you put too much acrylic paint in it, you're gonna start to lose the properties of the light dimensional ground. So I put in just enough to get it black. And you'll see that this is actually more like a 80 or 90% black. It still looks nice. I actually have a whole video where I paint on a board with a black surface like this, so you should check it out. I'll link it in the description. Once you get your ground down, you're gonna let it dry overnight. And then I did my drawing with watercolor pencil. I always like working with those because if you screw up, you just kind of wash your screw up lines away. And now I am going at it just like a standard watercolor, working light to dark. The surface is real, it's spongy, it has a unique feel, and the paint handles on it kind of differently in a pleasant way. I really enjoy using this surface. It's kind of, I don't know, I like changing it up every once in a while, so this is a really fun way to do that. And I definitely recommend, like, you just have to try it to really know. So right here, I left in this blurry bit of footage so that I could talk to y'all about lifting. So on this first layer, there was a part that just kind of, I don't know, didn't do what I wanted. So I went back with my little scrubby brush and lifted it right out. It didn't damage the surface, and the paint comes out, doesn't leave anything behind. Yeah, lifting, thumbs up. All right, now I'm going back at it with some darker values. So you do have to be patient with this one. The paint stays wet on the surface a little longer, but it can be a good thing because now you have extra blending time. You're not going to have those unwanted kind of streaky lines, you know, when you're trying to do a big wash and like it dries too fast. You wouldn't really run into that issue using light dimensional ground. So I am working on a fabric little fold study. I do a lot of figure work, and the body of work that I'm doing right now involves clothing, and I just felt like I was struggling with all the folds of the fabric. So I use this video as an opportunity to also kind of improve on I guess that skill, and I'm really glad I did, and it was actually a really pleasant painting experience, and I really feel like I should do more stuff like this, more studies. I know it's not the most exciting, but I think it's really good for you. So after I got done, I did some varnish spray. So if you're gonna do this, you're always gonna start with a gloss varnish. So what you're looking at right here is the finished thing with a gloss varnish on top. Well, I'm just throwing it out there, light dimensional ground. It's a really cool alternative to paper. I definitely recommend trying it. It just has a completely different feel. So if you want to try that, there's also watercolor ground and there's cold press ground, both made by QoR. And they're really fun too, but light dimensional ground is definitely the favorite of the three for me. But like this channel, and I will probably do a little overview of both of those products. Maybe I'll do an overview on paper. I tried hot press for the first time. Not a huge fan. I usually work on cold press. But I need to use it a few times, and then maybe I'll do like a hot press, cold press versus rough kind of video or something like that. But when I try, like when I do like a review or an overview on something, I want to like use it so that way it's not just like my first impression of it. Because I hate when people give a bad review because they're like, I don't know, this isn't what I'm used to, so I don't like it. That's lame. Like, let's like try it. So this is light dimensional ground. I do like this product a lot. It just is like, it just has a really nice feel to it. My one complaint when I'm like mixing it, that like whole texture like frosting thing, like I was mixing it earlier and I could smell frosting. Like just oof, like yeah. Like as if I don't already want cake all the freaking time. So, alright. I'll see y'all in my next video. Like the channel, subscribe, do all the YouTube-y stuff. I've linked all my articles I mentioned and my social medias and all that great stuff below. And I'll see you in my next video with some other art little nugget of wisdom for y'all. So I'll see y'all later. Bye!